Hi and welcome. I'm Matthew Dunn, host of the Future of Email Marketing podcast, and I'm delighted to say that my guest today is Massimo Arrigoni, CEO of B. Massimo, would you mind doing a quick introduction of yourself and your company and your role there?
Of course. Thanks, Matthew, for having me on the show. Great to be here. Like you said, my name is Massimo, and it sounds like an Italian name, and it is. I grew up in Italy, and then during my college years, I studied at UCLA, and then that's how I ended up in the United States. Met the person that became my wife, and so I moved here, not for business reasons, but then it became also the place, obviously, where I had my career, and I've been in product and marketing for a long time. And I got into email about 10 years ago or so. I had a company that focused on e-commerce software. And e-commerce is, so close to email for so many reasons. And so that's how I got in touch with the email space. And after I sold the e-commerce company, I started working for an email company called MailUp, an Italy-based company that we had done some business together. And so there, I as a product person, I became their product manager and head of product. And about 5 years ago at MailUp, we were working on our internal drag and drop email editor. And we thought we did a pretty good job. And so we took this product and put it out on the web to see if somebody wanted to use a visual builder separately from whatever tool they were actually sending the email with. And that was 2014 when we first put out the first MVP. And people loved it. I started playing with it, and that became B. And the funny thing is, B was kind of the internal project name.
Best email editor, right?
Exactly. And so and that's been growing the last several years.
I want to delve into to B a bit more because it's fascinating. But first, let's do a speed round. We're going to help get people to know you. So first thing off the top of your mind, okay? Cats, dogs, both or neither?
I'm a dog.
There you go. Okay.
Yes. Her name's Coco.
Coco, cool. Name a favorite place for you.
Favorite place? Oh, there's so many. I love traveling. But next week I'm going up to Lake Tahoe with my family. Love that.
Nice. There you go. That's a good top favorite place. Okay. Two more. One, name a favorite book or favorite author.
There too. There's many. So many. So I've been and I try to read both business books and fiction.
Yay.
So now I'm reading the one that I'm reading right now. It's a book about product strategy, and
I'm gonna write this down.
It's about it's called When Coffee and Kale Compete. It's So it's a good product strategy book. So it's something to look at in terms of motivations to purchase.
I definitely want to pick your brain about product. Alan Clement, for those of you who are listening, AlanKlement, When Coffee and Kale Compete. Last question: coffee, tea, or other?
Depending on the time of the day, I have a nice coffee in the morning, but then I switch to tea in the afternoon, and I love a cup of tea in the afternoon.
Okay. Switch hitter. I love it. For full disclosure, I should note that I'm fortunate enough to work with B and with Massimo as a partner. So I've got some familiarity with the company already, and I love their product and everything about the company. So I thought what a great guest and what a great opportunity to bring a real innovative side of email software and SaaS more broadly, in the person of someone with a whole bunch of experience in the space, onto this podcast. You talked about B a little bit. It was an in-house editor that you said maybe other people will use, but I wonder if you could delve a little bit more into what I think is quite distinctive about what B brings to the market. You talk to a SaaS company, and one of your options with the editor is to say, "We'll become your email editor." That's a mighty big thing for a company to take on, one of their key user interfaces to be delivered by someone else. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes. Well, as you build software too, and whenever you build any product, you're constantly making a decision on what you're going to focus on, and
Yeah.
it's always a make versus buy, and you
Yep.
can't build everything. And so a lot of marketing applications, CRMs, engagement platforms, you name it, they take care of a lot of things, a lot of jobs. And the visual builder component may actually not be really their core. Maybe they're an email platform where they're really good at sending emails and deliverability, etc. So our pitch has always been from the beginning, look, we can give you a user interface that's really good, and you may be able to save money and time so that you focus those resources on something else that's really core to you.
Yeah.
And I remember, without naming a couple of platforms that we were not able to sell to, they told us the opposite. They said, okay, the visual builder is such a core component to us that I can't use yours. I have to build it myself, right?
Yeah.
But the applications for which that is true, they're very few.
Yeah.
And so for everybody else, then we can become a good option. So they.
And I think one of the critical things about the value prop that I love, the technology side of it, the fact that it's like there's a relatively small bit of code inside a SaaS platform, and boom, this beautiful editor shows up. It's JavaScript and React, if I recall right. Like this whole package comes down and just unfolds magically inside someone else's platform and does the job. Like, that's terrific. But we're not talking about JavaScript and React innovation. We're going to talk about email. The second thing about your platform, and I'm focusing a little bit on the plugin, I suppose. We want to talk about the other editor uses, but for the plugin as well, it's not like you stopped innovating inside that plugin. That you're like a platform within a platform, so that the customer that you talked about, who said, okay, I guess we will use yours, keeps having the opportunity to bring new things to their business and, by extension, their customers. Can you talk to that a little bit? Because that to me is a real winner for everybody.
Sure. Fundamentally, with email, there's been an issue with it for a long, long time that has to do with empowerment and speed. Like a lot of people within an organization actually want to be able to create emails for all sorts of things, for all sorts of reasons. And we send emails as a company. Any company sends all kinds of emails for all sorts of reasons.
Yeah.
And imagine billing emails, HR emails, not just marketing, right? All kinds of things. And so there's a lot of people within an organization that have been wanting to be able to get those things done without having to wait for weeks. The litmus reports, it's that they say, okay, it takes a company weeks to get an email done. No, that cannot be the standard. So that's the first thing that B does. It allows a lot of people, non-technical people, to get in and go fast.
Yeah.
Now, depending on what they need to get done, they may need different levels of sophistication of the content. They may need to reuse content that someone else created.
Right.
They may need to drag and drop products from a catalog and just drop them into an email without having to re-enter the information from scratch. So there's all kinds of scenarios. So what we've been doing is building out capabilities so that these applications that embed B within their UI can customize it so that it gets the job done for those people that that need it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're embedded now in hundreds and hundreds of applications.
Yes.
And like I said, it's all kinds of things, like from an HR platform to a CRM for dentists, from automation for a car dealership,
Right.
to event management. And so in all of these scenarios, the content that you're creating and the things that you're trying to get done vary quite a bit.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the reasons why we've been able to be a good fit for a lot of different applications. They can customize this drag and drop editor to do what they need.
Well, and I mean, it's fascinating. I'll seize your dentist example because that's awesome. I mean, if you're a CRM for dentists, and I'm going to pick on one of your favorite recent features in the editor. If you're a CRM for dentists, you might not have the development resource to say, let's allow co-editing where the 2 people or 3 people could be working on an email at the same time. Like, that's just amazing. But would it make the cut of the resources for a CRM company for dentists? Maybe not. But if they're a big customer, then they go, okay, should we turn this on for the gold tier because big offices are more likely to have multiple people involved in that whole design and communication process of email. Like you're bringing innovation into them and jumping across industries to do that, and that's a huge value prop, seems to me.
Yeah, and also the end user, who says that the content editing experience in a Google Doc should be different than email? Who says that? The end user actually will think, no, I actually need kind of the same thing, right?
I expect it, right? If I'm a millennial.
And so sometimes, we kind of settle on, well, that's the way it's been.
Mm-hmm.
But to the end user, that makes no sense.
Yeah.
If they're getting used to a certain user experience when creating, a document, for example, in G Suite, they probably want a similar experience when they're putting together an email or a landing page or something like that. And so that's also what we're trying to do.
You're
bringing replicate.
You bring that time frame down for you. You referenced the litmus report that says something like 2 weeks or something for the average marketing email to get done, baked, approved, and all that other stuff. Like, oh wow, that's painful timeline.
And the interesting thing with COVID is that some of the things that you used to get done pretty quickly when you were in the same office, if you were, you just ask a colleague, hey, come over here, let me, what do you like this? Is this what you wanted? That kind of thing. You can't do it. Really.
Yeah. Look over my shoulder. Not so easy.
Exactly. Yeah. And so then things like commenting and co-editing and, being able to work together, then it becomes even more important. And in fact, there's been an acceleration, of adoption of all those tools.
I'm betting. The other way I look at the innovation cycle for a sort of an intimate piece, like here's the editor from someone else, is you also open up an opportunity for your customers to sort of switch on innovation at a pace that suits them, separate from developing the innovation, right? If you're the CRM for a dentist and you say, not everybody's ready for co-editing, but we've got a set of customers that are, it's like a few minutes decision for them to configure that for that group or class or whatever, as opposed to, investing a year, making a bet it's going to be something that sticks, and then, oops, not after all, right? I mean, you really enable the pace of innovation to be separated from the set of development resources they might have in-house.
Exactly. It's the whole concept of the way we use now, the various platforms that we use when we build stuff, right? When we build software, you start from a foundation that allows you to do things. And so that's what we want to do with B in the content design and content building part. We give you a foundation, a very solid foundation. We had over 36 million sessions of B across over 600 applications last year. That's an enormous amount of people building emails and pages. And so that also obviously provides us with a very large amount of feedback.
Yep.
And so you can count on the fact that this tool will improve and be a pretty good tool, unless we completely screw up, right?
Very battle tested.
And then you build on it. So you have a foundation,
Mm-hmm.
and then you build on it. And for example, you've built a great add-on for this tool that allows people that want to build on it to, to enable additional functionality for dynamic content and et cetera. And so then they can build things around that and build additional user experiences. And so I'm a big believer in the concept that building applications is becoming kind of like building a house, right? You don't write everything from scratch. Like you pick and choose the various building blocks, and you put your own style and your own value on top of it.
I was reading about a study, I think it was in Simon Wardley post on Medium, and he referenced another study where someone actually did the work to say, if we were going to do something fundamental like light bulbs or something, like what would it cost to actually make a light bulb as opposed to going and buying it off the shelf, for $5? And it was thousands, because all of the underlying technologies, refined metal and manufacturing and vacuum and glass and et cetera, like you think of them as just available, but if you were really doing it from scratch, I think the aluminum can is another example of that someone cited once. Like if there was the only one aluminum can in the world, it would be a manufacturing miracle. And we chuck them in the recycling without thinking about it now. Like, wow. Yeah, so that's the cycle. Hey, you referenced something I did want to hit on a little bit. There was a fork in the road where Bee became not just an email editor, but a page editor, correct?
Yes, and that comes from the fact that, again, when we think of email, those of us that have been in the space for a long time,
mm-hmm.
we love email on its own because it has all these properties to it. But really, to the marketer or the publisher, or it's a piece of a larger equation, right? And typically, if it is a marketing campaign, you'll have an email and probably a landing page and some social, et cetera, et cetera. It's fascinating to see, for example, something like MailChimp, the way MailChimp has grown the last 4 or 5 years. They still send an enormous amount of email, but they were listening to their small business customers that said, look, MailChimp, I need to do a lot more than email.
Yes.
And so it wasn't them trying to say, okay, how do I increase revenue? I'm sure there was that component too, but it's also just listening to a customer that says, you're one piece of a bigger puzzle. Give me some of the other pieces of the puzzle, because otherwise I go nuts trying to find all these pieces.
Yeah.
So with Bee, we're kind of responding to that because all of the applications that have embedded our email editor started asking for more. They're basically saying the same thing. Look, I want our customers to have that visual building experience to build other stuff too. They don't just need email; they need other stuff. And so gradually, we'll respond to those additional needs.
And now, presto, you've got the same really easy, fluid experience when you're putting a landing page together that they might have gotten accustomed to, which conserves the learning curve too, right? If you've got a designer who's really used to that editor for email. He's like, well, I can use the same one for pages. I don't have to start over or remember that this is different in some way, shape, or form. Yeah, that's a huge bit of leverage.
And another component to it is, when is a marketing team not in a hurry to finish a campaign, right? It never happens that you go, oh wow, I have tons of time left. I'm oh wow, the campaign is ready and it doesn't need to go out for another week. Like that never happens. You're always in a hurry because you're working all kinds of marketing activities. They all make sense. You need to get them out. So by using the same platform to do multiple pieces of content, we're going to enable people to switch from one piece to the other within seconds. Wow. So now you created the page, you go turn into an email, you remove the form, you change a couple of things, and off you go. And that component of speed coupled with empowerment, like I can get it done and I can get it done fast.
Yeah.
There's tremendous potential there, because it's just a clear reason to exist.
Clearly, yeah, and taking obstacles out of the way and addressing the reality of, as you said, when's the market or not, in a hurry and time pressed.
Exactly.
There's something implicit in that, in going ahead and addressing what the customers are asking for there. I think we share a bit of a fondness for Clayton Christensen and jobs to be done, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, the book that I told you about earlier, it is a book about kind of the same concepts. And yeah, the motivations to purchase. Why are these people really trying to
What are
get
they
done?
really trying to do?
It's also like they're just trying to go from A to B. And if it is a marketing team, going from A to B a lot of times means getting from I have no assets from my campaign to I've got all the assets ready. And so and there's the other thing that's really powerful about this is that, again, it's not just marketing. There's a lot of people that need to get digital content done for all kinds of reasons. And so this way you're really enabling a large amount of people to do things that earlier before they couldn't do, or it was a lot slower or more expensive.
Yeah.
One of the things that we love, for example, is the hosted version of Bee.
Yeah.
Is available for free to nonprofits, and so we have hundreds and hundreds of nonprofits that use it. And because creating a nice email for a fundraising campaign, right? It's something that can really make a difference in the life of a nonprofit. And typically those are non-technical people.
Yep.
And they still need to get it done fast. It needs to be responsive, all of it, right? And so I love that concept of allowing anyone that needs to get it done to get it done right and fast. And there's a lot of other applications right now that are kind of riding on the same wave. Canva, for example, is a great example of a company.
Yeah, and what's the one you and I corresponded about? It's a design tool. Starts with an S. Simpla, Civ, something like that. Forgot. Sorry. Completely lost the thread here. I did take one of the folks at Campaign Genius and forced him through coding an email template from scratch.
Oh, wow.
Young, developer trained, etc. He's like, okay, yeah, that'll be easy. And I said, yeah, yeah, let me know when you're happy with it, and it passes all the litmus tests and doesn't break and stuff. And I think he started getting why tools like yours, and in a narrower sense, tools like Campaign Genius, have a value proposition of helping someone do the job. Like, if you're a designer, you don't want to learn HTML. You want to put out a beautiful email. The job to be done is put out a beautiful email or create content. And you realize how painful the underlying wiring and plumbing and stuff. It's like, it's like the building a light bulb. You don't really want to go into aluminum smelting. You just want to, light up the room and read a book. So the tools that take care of that job for you, value prop goes way up. Lateral for a second. You mentioned this early that Bee as a product came out of an email company, and you had an exec role there, and you're still involved as well.
Sure.
How do those two things play off of each other?
I'm as a product person, I'm a huge believer in being the first heavy user of your own stuff. And we try to do this as much as we can. And so actually, Bee is part of a group of companies called MailUp Group. Right. And there's several divisions of the group that all use Bee. So MailUp as an email service provider is one of them.
That's right.
There's another company called Kumba Mail, which is a very small business email service provider in Spain. Also a heavy user of Bee, and they're using the landing page side of Bee too.
Okay.
There's another company at a mail-up group called Data Tricks in the Netherlands. It's a marketing, predictive marketing platform.
Really?
And same thing. And so the fact that you have within the same group of companies heavy users of your tool creates that immediate feedback loop.
Yeah.
And it was like this from the beginning. So it was very helpful. And there's no shortcuts. Like, it's not like they have access to some
Secret version,
different version, right?
Yeah.
No. Which also means that if we screw up, they're the first ones to yell at us.
Yeah. And they
It's
don't have to be polite.
Yes, that kind of stuff really keeps you honest if you're serious about it.
Yeah, many decades ago now, career at Microsoft, it was eat your own dog food and dog fooding, and
yes,
there's really no substitute for no. You got to use it, right? You make shovels here. You got to use your shovel to dig a hole. Tell me how you're gonna make the shovel better. With that dual footing for you between seeing a ton of SaaS companies, not just email companies, and then also being involved directly with a email centric, let's say, group of companies. What are some of the innovations on the horizon, specifically in email, that have your antenna up, and like what's come down the pipe that's got you excited?
I thought that the kind of interactivity that AMP provides would convince more people to adopt that kind of technology. And in fact, we did some work in the B editor.
In the editor,
you can use AMP and, for example, an AMP carousel. It hasn't happened as fast as I thought it would happen. There's all kinds of reasons for it, but I think there's for certain things, for certain use cases, having interactivity directly in the inbox just makes sense. Replying to a comment or saying yes to a calendar. I mean, for anybody that uses Gmail and gets those things, it becomes obvious that that's the way you do it. And so I think there's room for that, for some interactivity. And so we'll see what happens there.
Yeah.
That's one. And the other thing that I'm I think we're going to see some innovation and some interesting stuff is all the movement that we're seeing right now, where journalism is partially moving to email through these newsletters, Substack and Twitter that just got bought Review the other day. It goes in the direction of long form. Long form does so well with email because it lends into your inbox. You can read it later. You can store it. You can easily find it later. You can even be offline. All the good things that we know. Now, I think an evolution of that might be some interaction between you and the journalist, and maybe, and so something that normally you don't have.
Right.
And when there are interactions through social, they get out of hand. They become, yelling matches, etc. So I think if you put that together, maybe with some interactivity in the inbox, that could be something, and there could be something interesting there.
Yeah, the old dog's got some run left in him, and there's a shift, not back to email, but there's definitely seems like there's a renewed interest. I know numbers are up, and I don't think it's just pandemic. I'm not in the office. I've got to email. I think there's also some renewed interest because after the explosion of social media, there's now a halt. Hang on a second. Let's look at this. Let's look at the market structure, the dominant companies, and maybe question whether it solves every case where email is so directly a connection between company and subscriber, company, consumer, company and partners, whatever else. Do you have any perspective on how you think that's going to unfold over the next year or so?
I think for some reason people thought that one was a replacement for the other,
right?
And that instead, they've always been very, very different tools for doing different things, and used it for different purposes. And that's why email never went away. In fact, as you said, it continues to grow, and it will be that way. And the like we were saying earlier, the fact that you can store, search, read later, offline, all these things are fundamental to one of the reasons why you use the inbox as a go-to place, and where you can actually find stuff, etc. And many people still use their inbox as sort of even a to-do list. I keep at the top the things that I need to, like, how you can't do that on Twitter. Like, it's
right.
But it's not bad, good, or the thing that some people lost over the years. It's not good or bad. It's not one is the evolution of the other. No, they get done completely different jobs, to go back to the, what you're saying.
Jobs to
so
be
if
done.
you accept that, then, and some people may not need, those jobs to be done, and therefore they may not use one or the other. But most of us actually use both for different reasons. And so, and in general, I actually don't think that email is a particularly great tool for acquiring customers, although some people still try to use it for that. But you very quickly go into spam and and like, okay, don't bug me, don't I never asked you to contact me, all that stuff. That's clearly not what email is for. Whereas social, etc., it's much better for discovery, and you see something and catches your attention, and like you're much more ready to discover new things there than you are when you're in your inbox.
Well, and in social, you've got, you essentially have a referee or a gatekeeper, whatever the network is, whether it's Twitter or Facebook or something like that. And one of the things that all of those companies seem to have realized that they're inherently in the position to do is to make those targeting decisions phenomenally accurate. I don't think that's true of email. You can make the mistake of buying a list that says it's just left-handed redheaded accountants, but the likelihood that it's actually that accurately targeted, no. And you're not supposed to spam them in the first place. So very different purpose. I've had this phrase running in my head that email is a civil media, not a social media. That it really works when I've said, yes, I want to hear from you, and I will keep hearing from you, and you respect that, that back and forth exchange of value between the two of us, and it sticks around. And at the end of the day, I can unsubscribe or stick you in a filter and say, go away, I don't want to ever see it again. And I stay in control of that conversation, and it's my account, not someone else's account. And I think that's a big difference. Last question, because I don't want to chew up your day, and I appreciate you letting me run over time a little bit. Text and email. I hear this one all the time, and I laugh because I don't get that many text messages. And if I got one from someone in the volume I get email, I'd just throw my phone across the room. How do you see those two coexisting?
It's funny because MailUp Group, we have a company where we send an incredible amount of text messages.
Do you?
Yeah, and that's another technology that was supposed to be dead way back, and everything was going to happen through push notifications or apps, etc. But the reality is that there are specific things that text messages are just perfect for.
Yes.
And obviously all the security codes that you get, and all that stuff. It's perfect. And for example, here in California, this summer we've had problems with fire, etc. The fact that you can rely on text to receive those messages, when the internet is not working and whatever. And I mean, we're talking about fundamental reasons to exist, which is why a tool like that is not going away. Now, is that a good marketing tool? No, normally it's not. In fact, in most countries, the rules are very strict around that. And with email too, I think privacy regulations are going, personally, I think, in the right direction. And these different tools actually do a good job within those privacy frameworks. Email is perfect for, yes, I told you that that you can message me, and if I change my mind, I'll unsubscribe. It's
Right.
like,
Right.
it's perfect. And so I think text too is here to stay for
It's
a long time.
definitely got its place. But it's, as you said earlier, it's not a substitute. It's not going to supplant. I always get someone who's, this is going to take over the world. I say, do you have a radio in your car? Yeah, I rest my case. Right.
Right.
We still got a radio in your car.
Yeah. Ultimately, if there's a core reason for something to exist, it will probably continue to exist unless either that core reason goes away, which they normally don't for a long time, or if really something comes along that does it so much better. But that also doesn't happen that often.
Cool. Well, I thank you for making the time for a fascinating conversation. Once again, if you're listening, my guest has been Massimo Arrigoni, CEO of Be. Their website is befree.io. And if you want to see the most gorgeous email editor around and page editor, I recommend you take a look. Thanks again for your time, and I look forward to talking with you again in the future, Massimo.
Thanks so much, Matthew. Have a great weekend.
All right, you as well. Bye.
Bye.